What if you were to listen to an internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning illusionist, and he had something far more to say than, "Watch this trick"? Rick Thomas is that performer, ready to go far beyond his magic and far beyond your imagination as he shares secrets regarding our dreams. Dreams that can become reality. The future belongs to those who believe in the strength of their dreams. Dreams pass into the reality of action. From the action stems the dream again. And this interdependence produces the highest form of living. Join Rick and his co-host, award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo, for Nothing Happens Until You Dream. Indulge your mind and take a journey never to be forgotten. A journey connecting all of our dreams as we chase them together.
Rick, this chapter, we're talking about chapter 24 this week. This is something I've always wanted to ask you about, so this is perfect. The title of the chapter is When Illusions Go Wrong. Now, fortunately, I've never been in the audience for a magic show and an illusion has gone wrong, but obviously it's got to happen, right?
I'm sorry that all you heard from me as we began to speak was laughter.
Which answered my question very well. Yeah, they go wrong. Oh, my God.
Everything goes wrong. Okay, here's the point. In the world of grand illusion, I am one step ahead of you. That's the secret to magic, maybe even 2 steps ahead of you. So when I say I'm going to make something disappear, maybe, just maybe, it's already gone. Now it's the theatrics to make it look like, wow, there it goes. So this whole thing about being one step ahead, sometimes when an illusion goes wrong, I'll tell you up front, we can cover ourselves because the people watching don't know what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
It doesn't happen. But I will tell you that in this particular writing that we're going to discuss today, there were a few times where I could not hide the disaster in front of me. And I had to and sometimes, you know what, I'm going to tell you this right up front, because this has a lot to do. When we talk about this book is to reflect upon you. It's a mirror into your life as well. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about these things, I want people to really think about what that means when an illusion goes wrong. How does that affect them? What does it mean to them?
Recovery is the big thing.
Recovery. Well, also to accept the disaster. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better to, instead of trying to blame it on somebody else or hide the obvious scenario, is to admit it and enjoy the consequences. Is that the way to put it?
Yes,
and
I think so.
I think as human beings, we're going to accept that better than somebody always pretending that they're perfect.
Oh, absolutely. I learned a long time ago, Rick, that if I screw something up, my best defense is to say, you know what? I screwed that up. Because it's really hard to get mad at somebody who's admitting that, and it's super easy to get mad at somebody who's making every excuse in the book or blaming somebody else. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to diffuse a situation going, yeah, you're right, I totally screwed it up.
And in the world of magic on stage, when they do see something possibly going wrong, there are times I've literally just turned to the audience and said, wow, that wasn't so good. And then people they'll laugh because they're like, oh, we can handle that. This is live theater.
Yeah. Well, I think in some of the big things you do, if something went wrong, there's some things you just couldn't possibly cover. I can't even imagine it. We'll get
to that today. We'll get to that today.
So this chapter, it's first off, and again, I've got to say this, if you haven't gotten the book, get the book. We're telling the stories, but you can't see the pictures. This chapter starts with the most gorgeous picture of you and Tara.
Flying in the air.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a stunning picture.
Well, the illusion is called air adage.
Right.
And it's adagio in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that don't understand the world of dance, adagio, it means a partnering, 2 people dancing together and one doing the groundwork and the other person often being lifted into the air and presented as a dance number, and it's adagio.
I see.
And so I just wanted to dance and actually have the person dance in the air, but really dance in the air.
Wow.
Where I am lifting and spinning and pulling and pushing and making her fly, and you can't physically do that, and that's what makes it magical. If you want to see a short version of it, you can always go to TikTok.
Okay.
Just
There
go
you
to
go.
Rick Thomas Magic
There you go.
and go on TikTok. And we plead with everybody, sign on. I know TikTok's a wild world out there,
Yes.
but sometimes there are things worthy of watching.
Oh, yeah.
And
There's some cool stuff.
the Aerodage was actually the first video I put out. So when you go to Rick Thomas Magic on TikTok, you're going to go all the way to the first one, watch that one, and then watch everyone since that one, and then sign on and follow me.
There you go.
So there
Okay.
you go.
So in the book, the first thing this chapter talks about is this billiard ball trick that you tried. And
When I
now,
was 13.
even at 13, you were tall and you have big hands. So that's a good
No,
thing.
gangly is the word.
Okay. All right. Okay. I didn't know you at 13,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking, even being gangly or big, holding billiard balls between your fingers. Oh my God, Rick. Wow.
For people who've seen magic and know of it a lot, billiard balls are a very common item for magicians to utilize in the art form. It comes from like the 1930s or the 1940s. Like, for example, a deck of cards is a big deal. Everybody
Right.
has a deck of cards. Magicians, for some reason, magicians have held on to and completely blown away this world with amazing things with a deck of cards. Cards were never designed for a magician to do a trick. Think about it.
Right.
Think about it. Okay. Cards were a game. Cards were something for the general public to be entertained in that form or fashion.
Right.
And you had these, we call them finger flickers, if you want to call it that as well. There's so many strange names for illusionists or magicians performing with cards. We have flourishes where we do fancy things with the cards. We fan them, we cut them. And then on top of it, for some reason, those 52 cards all added up together mathematically create ways where magicians, those that have the mind to put together a trick, can utilize these little flat pieces of paper and pull off amazing feats of magic.
Absolutely.
So that's fascinating. So
Yeah.
also with the billiard balls, people were really into playing pool.
Yeah.
And pool's a big sport. And billiard balls, of course, all different sizes, are on the pool table. And so I would guess at one point some guy picked up a ball and started doing tricks with it and trying to make it disappear and, take it off the table and it's not there, or move the ball to some other point on the table that no one saw. So there might have been some cheating going on. And next thing you know is we create these smaller balls where magicians now use what we call billiard balls, and we multiply them in our fingers. And 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 8. And then you, in the process, turn around and make them disappear. So it's a manipulation, just like cards. You have cards, coins, billiard balls, and they're all manipulative magic, manipulation.
Well, I'm looking at that picture of you, though, at 13-ish. With those balls are, I mean, they're not the size of a pool ball, but they're still
No.
awfully big. And
Right,
I mean,
right,
I know a
right.
little about cards. I know how to backstack a deck. I used to be able to actually do that pretty decently, but I can't imagine holding onto those balls. And I guess
It was tough.
you couldn't
And just
either at
that
the
alone,
beginning.
I know. Just putting them between your fingers is tough. So there I am
Yeah,
performing as a young boy, a classic in the world of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have these billiard balls that I have now multiplied in my fingers. And I was shaking. I was just absolutely shaking.
Oh, I bet.
To death. I was very frightened in my career performing. Even today, there'll be times when I know that the audience is staring very close at me, and you'll get the jitters, shake a bit.
Like, I really believe
I dropped.
that. But
I dropped the balls. I dropped them. They fell out of my fingers. When one goes, they all go, and they literally bounced off the stage. And for those, I was performing, and if anybody remembers these, I was performing for an Elks Lodge
oh, yeah.
event.
Okay.
Right, where all these people get together, and they have a lot of those lodges, and they always had a nice area for people to present or perform. And anyway, these balls fell out of my hands, and they kind of rolled under the tables in front of me.
Oh, dear.
And at 13 years of age, I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to finish the routine with nothing in my fingers. So I jumped off the stage, and I got on my hands and knees, and I crawled through the audience
Oh, my
and picked
God.
all the balls up. and
Oh,
then got back up on the stage and finished it. Most people now would go, forget it,
right,
I'm done,
right.
and then go on to something else. I would have, but not then. And something went wrong, and no matter what, I had to just fix it in spite of myself, and I had nowhere else to turn. But when I think back on it, that was probably the wrong route to go, but I didn't know what else to do.
Okay, so you went out in the audience, you gathered them all back up, you went back on stage. Did you successfully perform the illusion?
Oh, yes, actually.
There you go.
And the audience was thrilled.
I bet they were.
They were kind to a 13-year-old.
Well, I think they probably applauded your courage for getting them all collected back and
Well, there
going
you
back
go.
up there and
That's-
showing it. Yeah.
Good. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Being willing to accept the challenge and do whatever you've got to do to fix the problem. And again, at 13, it might have been embarrassing, but as you put it, being a human, hopefully everyone else will say, well, congratulations for pursuing and finishing it in spite of the challenges that you faced.
You proved you could do it. That's cool. I would have loved to have been in that audience because, this kid would have been just amazing at that point. Forget that he dropped him. Look, he just did it. You're only as good as your last trick, right?
As good as your last trick. And also, I'm very lucky that some tricks never make it to the stage. There's a backside to all of this. There's a creative side to it that is constant failure. Constant failure. I'll point to a perfect example. One of my favorite lines is, winners are losers who get up one more time and try.
True.
And there was a wonderful creator. His name was Don Wayne. You're talking about the air adage and Tara floating in the air and dancing in the air. I was attempting to try to make, at one point, a microphone stand dance through the air, specifically for a number that actually got in the show, but only part of it made it to the show, because what we were trying to attempt, we spent the better part of 2 months trying to pull it off, and it wouldn't work. Here was a person who was one of the greatest creators and minds in the industry, and he couldn't even get it to work. He says, Rick, we've tried. Let's go think about something else. This is not going to work. And when you look at the great inventions of the world, now this was not a great invention. It didn't change millions of people's lives, but you've got people like who can create, the electricity and all these amazing inventions that people had to fail at over and over and over. Whatever industry it is, medical industry, whatever it is, when people are trying to create something that is going to be something for the masses, there's a lot of failure there.
Oh,
and
sure.
People need to remember, it all happened the first time after 2,365 fails.
Right.
So I just kind of want to point it out that on the front side, many things that we try to come up with, even in the world of magic, never makes it to the audience. Thank goodness.
But I've got to ask a question for some people who have asked me this question, knowing we do this podcast, knowing that I love magic as an observer. Magic, and again, I don't know all you know, obviously, but I know you've talked about lighting and mirrors and some of the things that go into making these illusions happen. It's pretty scientific. And I've been asked, where do you learn that kind of stuff so you can start to create illusions? There's not a magician's college or anything. So where do you learn all that science and physics and what have you?
That is a tough question, because I think it's a certain thought process. I've had people come to the show who've walked up after the performance and say to me, I build bridges.
Okay.
I build skyscrapers. I am an architect. I do this. I do that. But I cannot wrap my head around what I've just seen. And in reality, an illusion built by our builders who build these effects for me just think about building things differently than the general public do. And I don't know how to, without telling people the basic concepts behind it, there are basic forces that, you'll do an illusion and someone will say, there's no way I build the biggest things on the face of this earth, and there's no way what I just saw, it can't be done. And it's just because they're thinking
in their arena.
I don't know, in their arena. And I think it's slow. When I first started, I really worked hard at becoming something great in my profession. Was I there when I was 13 years old and I dropped the billiard balls? No.
Not quite.
Was I ready for the big times? No. I had to prove my worth. There were 4 major builders of Grand Illusion in the Los Angeles area when I was growing up. In fact, the world of magic centered literally around Southern California. And I'm not joking. Everyone from
Cool.
across the world, whether you're from Japan, Korea, Rome, it doesn't matter. Across this world, those greatest creators in the 80s, the 90s, the first part of the 2000s, literally came from the California area near Hollywood, special effects, people that had to do with Imagineering for Disney.
Oh, yeah.
Those types of people, those types of minds were the ones that started to create illusion. And I remember, because I luckily lived in Long Beach, California. I grew up next to the Magic Castle.
Yep.
I could rub shoulders with these people. But when I was trying out for the Magic Castle when I was 21 years old to become a member, it was a struggle. These people had to believe in me. At that point in the world of magic, they would not let anybody into their little world unless they were worthy of being there. And it was quite a struggle to get these builders to believe in me enough to let me into their world and work with me on my ideas and their ideas together and do something grand.
At that age,
It was
yeah.
a struggle. At
Yeah,
that age, it was a struggle.
21.
So a lot of us had a hard time when we watched The Masked Magician on television
Oh.
expose illusions, because
Yeah.
when they on television said, oh, look how simple this is. Look how easy this is to pull this off. Well, if it was, well, then why didn't everybody know about it before a masked magician had to expose it? You know, it's easy once you know the secret, but beforehand, the mystery is there. You know, we're one step ahead of you, and that's the way we like to keep it.
Well, yeah,
And-
I binge watched that show one weekend a few years after it came out. And
Don't. I'm telling everybody who's listening to this podcast, don't do it.
No,
Don't do it.
No, because
it'll ruin you.
It does. It does. I mean, there was a lot of, oh my God, that's how. But
Yes.
it's like right now I know a little tiny bit too much from watching that. Just a little bit too much. But I've never figured out one of yours. So I'll say that. One of these
Oh,
days.
well, many thanks. Deep
But no,
appreciation.
that, I've got to ask with him. There was a lot of controversy when that show came out. There is such a code with magicians where you
Yes.
don't reveal. In doing that, did he pretty much wipe himself off the earth of magicians?
Yes,
He did.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell everybody on this podcast something they're going to say, really, Rick, that's the truth? I'm about to tell you the absolute truth about that story. I'm not using names. I
Right.
don't want to use names.
Right. I know his real name. I'm not going to say
I
it.
know who's the masked magician. I was called in literally to the studios to be pitched a new magic television special.
Oh, no.
And I was excited because I had been pitching my magic to the studios for some time.
Right.
And when I came in there, they said, Rick, we love your magic, but we've got an idea. And the idea is we're going to expose the art of magic, but you're going to wear a mask.
Oh, my.
Literally, the studio pitched it to me before it was ever made or ever done. And I sat there. I was stunned. I thought they were coming in to appreciate my art.
Right.
I came there and sat down expecting for them to applaud my successes.
Wow.
And all they wanted to do was expose me. I had a hard time understanding why they would want to ruin one of their own art forms. They don't do it to anybody else, but they would do it to us. And I stood up, literally, honest truth. I was in the room, the first person offered this opportunity to be the masked magician. And I said, you will never find any magician to do this for you. This is wrong. I walk out. Next thing I know, they find somebody willing to lose their soul.
Wow.
I mean, that person was pretty much ostracized from the magic industry from that time forward. But
Wow.
it is a frustration, and I couldn't talk them out of it. That was their get. That was their hook. And one of my moments in my life where I walked away from some success, but not the way I wanted it.
Well,
And,
you walked away from a lot of money, too, for the right
Yeah.
reason.
Mhm.
And that's hard to do for some people. And that may be why somebody did the show, because they're thinking, wow, that's money can change your thought process sometimes.
Well, one word, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and Rick Thomas would have been the masked magician.
And we
So-
never would have heard of you again.
Yeah.
Oh,
There
my
you go.
goodness. Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible. I'm glad you said no. You did the right thing. But, there are a lot of people who get ahead by saying yes to things that they should not have say yes to. And it helps them get ahead or to get something, in this case, money. But I wonder how often they look back and go, if I had that to do over again, I wouldn't take the career step. I wouldn't take the money, because it changed their lives in a negative way, as it did with him.
Yes.
He's no longer a magician. I mean, not really.
Not in the way that, yes.
Yeah, not by his community, which is important.
Well, let's now talk about things that really go wrong on stage.
Okay.
There was one moment in my career that absolutely, literally, was the worst moment of my my magical life on stage.
Oh dear, I want to hear this.
And it's actually not that bad, because the public didn't know what they didn't see. But I was left distraught. There are times when we can cover it up and kind of fudge through things and something partially work. But there was one time in my career, and I was performing on stage and preparing to make a tiger magically appear.
In Vegas, where were you?
I was at the Sandcastle in
Oh.
Guam,
Okay.
actually, but it was very important. We had a sold out audience, and I was performing for at that point Japanese, Korean, and Chinese audiences. And we were the hit of the island, and it was a big deal for me, as far as always making sure that my show was perfect.
Sure, of course.
Unluckily for me, though, and I say this I don't know how you say this in positive terms, I might take the applause and the bows, but so much of the magic relies on wonderful people who you work with to help make the magic happen. Whether it's the technical director on lights and sound, or your crew backstage, or your dancers that work next to you, Tara, who magically flies in the air. So many people will ask her after a show, do you know how you fly in the air? Because they really believe that Rick Thomas, it's all about Rick, right?
Right, you made it happen.
And she has to quietly say, yes, I do. I do know how to fly in the air. But in reality, she could play it off to children and say, no, I don't know how he makes me float in the air.
I'm just glad I land every night.
Yeah, but so it all kind of reflects on me. Whether it works or it doesn't, it still reflects on me. And that's how the audience perceives it. So I'm supposed to make this tiger appear. And the best way to say it is, the curtain opened. I do my words before it starts. The curtain opens to reveal a cage with people climbing into position to present, and they're not supposed to be there. We have people climbing up steps. We have a crew on stage prepping curtains with their back to the audience. I remember the stage manager, when I opened the curtain and he turns around like a deer in headlights, he just freezes and he just looks at the audience and he drops his curtain and he walks off stage. Two of the dancers leave. One tries to hide behind the cage, and one girl stays in the cage, but she can't do anything without the other two individuals. So I am supposed to make a girl turn into a tiger. And at that point, I can't do anything. Everybody who's supposed to be part of this is gone. They all ran off the stage. And the one girl just looks at me with her eyes wide open. What am I supposed to do? And I go, nothing. And I turn around to the audience, and I remember going, I throw my hands in the air and go, yeah. And I run off the stage and they close the curtain. And it sounds kind of weird, but at that moment, at that time in my life, I could not go and pick up the billiard balls off the floor and fix it. It was done. It was done. And maybe that's why in my life I played on the tennis team often in high school and college, because I like to play as an individual rather as a team. Because if things went wrong, I could only blame myself. But when you play as a team, this whole teamwork thing is difficult because it can go two ways. Either you can say, it wasn't my fault, they screwed up, or you can say, I'm glad I'm part of the team and we can do better. So, but the blame game is easy on teamwork.
Very.
Because you can blame it on somebody
You have
else.
somebody.
And in that case, I had a cast backstage who they just basically were not listening to what was going on in front of the curtain, and they weren't listening to their cues. They were playing around backstage because when the curtain's closed, until it opens, they're just casually getting into place, getting themselves set. And the moment it opened on them, they weren't ready. So my thoughts to you regarding that and how it reflects on your life. Be ready when the curtain opens. Success is preparation meeting opportunity. You need to be prepared when that curtain opens. And sometimes we are, and sometimes we aren't, and we're going to miss that opportunity. But more often than not, you need to stay on your game. And in that case, that was not a good night.
Well, you never know when that curtain's going to open.
No.
In life.
Oh, isn't that the truth? In life.
Yeah. Yeah. Your biggest opportunity could come this afternoon, unbeknownst to you at this moment.
Yeah. Please. Will it please happen this afternoon?
I'm waiting too. If you get any word, let me know. You're absolutely right. You have to have yourself ready because you just don't ever know. If you're flat-footed, as I call it when I talk to my students about things like that, you're going to miss that opportunity and you will kick yourself for the rest of eternity because that could have been the left turn, right turn that just made it all work.
There's so much with this chapter that's important for you to think about in our lives. And that missed cue was not just a missed cue for us. That was a missed cue for hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So even though the audience didn't totally know, they don't know what happened. They know something went wrong. Luckily for me, they didn't know what was supposed to happen. They didn't even know a tiger was going to appear.
No.
You just open the curtains and then close the curtains. But the missed opportunity was a missed cue that affected hundreds and hundreds of people. And remember, we're one step ahead. So that's why I'm saying we were able to get out of it.
Yeah.
This also comes full circle to the entire book, The Tiger Whisker. The story of the Tiger Whisker is always to be remembered because the littlest things you do can affect and be monumental to somebody else. And that is in life, whether it be a mistake, a story, the way you treat somebody, the way you speak to somebody. I'll tell you this. And it's kind of hard because I don't know sometimes how to play this. Someone may tell me that there could be a different way to do it. But when I have tried desperately, when somebody does something incorrect on stage, these are people that know what they're doing. Okay?
Right.
This isn't something that's common that a mistake occurs, right? They already know the show. We've been presenting for ages together and we know each other. We know how to work around each other. And when someone does something wrong, I try desperately not to say anything. I don't say anything to them. I don't go up to them and scream and yell at them and tell them, what do you think you're doing? Because in my opinion, they already know they made the mistake.
Oh, yeah.
They already know. They don't need me to tell them. They don't need me to tell them off. There may be a moment where you can walk off stage and wink at them and go, oh, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. If it happens a second time, then there needs to be a discussion. But sometimes, and I know that this can be rough, sometimes when I don't say anything to them, they know, I know, and that really sinks in. I don't need to tell them, but they're really worried. What's Rick thinking? What's Rick thinking? What's Rick thinking?
Oh.
I'm thinking is you made a mistake. I'm not going to ream you for it. You already know what you've done. Let's just not happen again. And you can do that in a better way than just ripping into somebody when you know for a fact that's not common behavior.
Right. I would be so scared that the next time you walked by me, you'd just go, by the way, you're fired. I would be trying to stay out of your way until through the next performance when I get everything perfect, because then you wouldn't dare fire me. No, I would be so scared of you if I screwed up on stage. Oh my God.
Well, that's why sometimes my silence is worse.
Yes.
Than saying something to them. So people will say, Rick, that's not very fair. But I say they already know they made a mistake. If they make it again, let's talk. But if not, it's no big deal.
Yeah, because they're kicking themselves harder than you even might. At that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I want people to understand that the people who work behind you, they are professionals in their job. That's a big, responsible job. My God, I can't imagine doing it.
I just put out a newsletter this last week, and it was actually about Tara, my wife, who happens to be the star of the show. She deserves the public knowing who she is and what she does and how she accomplishes the show backstage. And without her, there is no Rick Thomas. So it's important. In fact, anybody who has a chance to go online to my website and connect with me on the front page, you can hit connect and then go onto my newsletter. Let's bump the news. I have thousands of people I send this newsletter out to. I think it's a beautiful newsletter.
Oh, it is.
And I send
fantastic.
it out. And if you're on the podcast, you should be on the newsletter as well. And that tells you basically my life, what's going on monthly in the show. And this month it was all about Tara. And I was very proud to share. So backstage is the best show. Audiences, it's great to watch the show, but if you want to see something, the true art of the world of magic and how phenomenal it is you have the chance to watch it backstage. Sadly, we're not going to let you.
I'm going to bug you until forever because I want to do that so badly.
But I can tell you that the artistry that you see that occurs while I stand out front and take a bow or talk to the audience and the grand curtain opens for the next effect or whatever we present, it is mind-blowing. And I'm saying this again, how does this reflect on everybody's life? Because people do amazing things. I love the entertainment industry. I like at the end of a movie to sit there and watch how many people it took to make the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have one or two stars.
Yep.
And you have 2,000 people in the credits who were needed to pull off the movie.
Who made it
We're
happen.
not talking 10 people. We're not talking 100 people. We're talking 2,000. We just watched an animated movie at the theater, and I don't mind saying it. This was the latest Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
And my son Brandon looked to me and he said, I looked at him and I said, son, you want me to guess how many people that might have taken for that? And this is a illustration. This is a animated picture.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I'm guessing about 2,000 people. And we go online, type it in. How many people did it take to make this movie?
Oh, my God.
Just over 2,000 people.
Oh, my God. Really? Even more than in the credits, really.
Yeah. So when you accomplish something in your life and you do, as far as our show, my Mansion of Dreams, what I'm proud about the Mansion of Dreams is how few people it took to make the Mansion of Dreams. What I'm thrilled for, if there's somebody listening to this, what we could do with Mansion of Dreams if there were more people who wanted to be involved. If you put a lot more people behind a project like this, it would be that much more spectacular. But what we've accomplished and what we've done with the few people we have, I applaud them. I applaud them because it's just an amazing feat that we've created. So when you do something on your own and you've accomplished it, you should feel of great worth. Because it takes 2,000 people to make a movie.
Wow. Unsung heroes.
Not one
right?
person. So unsung heroes. And I think there's unsung heroes in all aspects of all business. And there are the amazing people who are the owners of big companies or this or that, but who are the people that put it all together? The people in the factories, the secretaries, the guys putting the art together. It all is one massive team. You got to all work together to make it all happen. And I think in the world of magic, even though there are mistakes that are made, the ride is worth it.
Well, we're always going to make mistakes because we are humans after all. All right. We're not perfect. But I think the big deal is how you recover from those mistakes. You came back on and you completed the show and it was wonderful. You dropped the balls, you got them back, you did the illusion, it was great. It's the recovery. You've got to learn to recover.
Oh, that's the hard part, getting up and dusting off and continuing forward. No matter how hard you think, that so many times, well, like I told you about the first part when Don Wayne and I quit on one effect. We went as far as we possibly could and said, no go.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be very straightforward in this conversation today. I am very lucky that I can stand on stage every day and tell people to follow their dreams. And people look at me and go, oh, look at Rick Thomas. His dreams have come true, but mine, I don't know. I'm trying to tell you in this book, the whole idea behind this was to tell you about my successes, but also to tell you about my failures. Not all dreams are going to come true in your life. They just aren't.
No.
And when I get up there and I tell people, follow your dreams to make this world a better place, I'm not saying follow your dreams because it's all going to be perfect. I'm saying follow your dreams because it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better person because when you look back on dreams that maybe didn't totally come true, the growth that you have made, the person that you've become, the efforts that you attempted are going to make you that much better. So following your dreams, even though the entire dream has not completely been accomplished,
Right.
some of it has.
Sure.
And that's the same even with my Mansion of Dreams. Is my Mansion of Dreams, the show that I presented on stage, everything that I've wanted it to be? No way. And you shouldn't be happy with just what it is. You should always be wanting to do more. There is so much more that I want to do and to accomplish with those thoughts and those ideas. And they'll look at it and go, Rick, amazing what you've accomplished. So yes, we can be happy with the dreams that we have, but maybe, just maybe, when they don't come true, that you think to yourself, well, maybe some of it did. And maybe the dream was supposed to come true, but it wasn't supposed to be exactly the way I thought it was supposed to be. Stop thinking that this world is going to be perfect. I'm going to tell you now, here's a discussion I had with David Copperfield, and I appreciate the words that were said, and they were simple. And he said, Rick, I want you to remember that no one ever came knocking on my door. I leave it at that. I leave it at that.
Yeah.
You think about that in your life. No one came knocking on my door.
You're just going to sit there. I tell my students, don't sit there and wait for the bus to come by that may never come by. That's what I tell them. Don't sit. Do. You got to.
Thank you for this wonderful conversation
Oh,
today.
it was great.
I appreciate this.
Me too.
It's embarrassing, the terrible things that swirl around in my head and all the mistakes that have been made. I'll tell you something else too. There are times when I'm doing something on stage. It's extremely intricate what we do in the show, and on the front side of the show, I present my birds, and the birds are probably one of the hardest things I do in the entire production. And I go out there and I present, and no matter what, because it is so difficult, there are little things that don't go as rightly as they should in my mind.
I get
And the
that.
problem is it flusters me the rest of the show. I will think about that one little thing that didn't work for me as I wanted it to, and it will mess me up for the rest of the night.
You're a
And-
perfectionist.
It's so difficult to get over. So hard.
That's the mark of a perfectionist. I'm the same way with what I do. And it does. It hangs with you. You may have a perfect show. Every other illusion goes 100% perfect. But that one, that's me with a newscast. One bad newscast out of an entire day of newscasts. And it's like, but the 10 o'clock just wasn't perfect. It's like, oh my gosh, stop it. Stop beating yourself. Yeah, I do it too. Perfectionist.
Well, then it must mean that a few more people listening to this, they do it as well.
I think a lot of people do.
I'm only saying this because I'm part of the problem. It's just who I am, and I can preach all I want about it and tell you to get over it, but I don't even get over it.
No.
But at least I'm admitting it. I know what kind of game it's playing in my head, and I've done better. I've done better in my life because of that. I'm not as bad on myself as I used to be.
I agree. Me too.
And for that reason, we move on.
Rick, before we end the podcast, though, we do have to talk about some other things that are going on. Because, again, and we say this almost every time we do our podcast, the news is disconcerting right now with finances, with the economy. And I'm worried. I'm getting more worried as we go. But you have a plan and you're willing to talk to people about it. And that is diversifying. And
only because somebody came to me and did the same thing. Somebody cared enough to walk up to me after one of my shows and say, Rick, what are you doing to protect your family? Do you know anything about something beyond your bank account? And in their case, it was precious metals, gold and silver.
talk. Right.
And they said, we have protected our families. We have done everything we can to protect our families. And we have diversified what we have. And that basically means chop up what we have and put it in a whole bunch of different places. Even in the stock market, when you look at the stock market professionals, they'll tell you that you shouldn't own one stock. You shouldn't own 5 stocks. You should own 25 stocks.
Little bits in each one. Yeah.
Little bits in each one because it's going to fluctuate. And that's diversification. That's it. But you need to diversify outside the stock market as well. You do need your bank account so you can pay your mortgage, your rent, whatever it may be.
Right.
You can put money in stocks, whether it be crypto as well, whatever your decisions are. But another fascinating opportunity today is precious metals, holding on to something that is real, that is tangible, that is not just a whole bunch of zeros and ones on somebody's computer, and actually have something of worth that you're holding on to. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, and that is gold and silver. I will say this until only because I'm regurgitating what was told to me. I don't know why gold and silver and precious metals have been accepted by the entire world. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know why gold is so important to the world. It is the commodity that the world in general, every country, every organized worldwide organization will accept is gold. It holds its worth. It is of worth. That being the case, you should have some of it. Okay? That's the best way to put it. You need some because beyond the United States, beyond whatever you want to look at as far as the human race goes, it is the one thing that holds the economy together, literally, and that is gold and silver. These items that we have, especially silver, is utilized in so many things we live with today, whether they be our cell phones or whatever it may be. Silver is a major commodity.
Not just in jewelry. Not in jewelry. It's our actual life and what it's put in to make things work. I have a few things I'd like to share with the world regarding gold and silver. And if you want to know, Tammy, tell them how to reach me. You go to mansionofdreams.net/wealth. And I want to point out something because people always bring this up. Okay, here's Rick Thomas, world famous illusionist, talking about gold and silver. He's got the money to talk about gold and silver. What about the guy working down here making, $60,000 a year? You're not talking about something that costs a fortune to get into.
Nope. Like a silver eagle coin is somewhere between the $20 and $30 mark right now. If you were to take $20 or $30 a week and buy at least one silver coin, and it being American Eagle coin, just one coin a week, one coin a month, whatever it is to you, that $20 or $30, and you look back at the end of the year, you're going to turn around and realize that you have something of worth. The other fascinating part about it is people say, well, what do I do with it? How do I exchange it? I will help you with that as well. I know what to buy, where to buy it, how to store it, and how to sell it. It's not difficult. But once you know the secrets, it's simple. There are so many people across this world who know exactly what to do with it, and you do as well. So you have this real money. Once you have it, it is your insurance policy. And many people, once they have it, don't spend it. You put it away, you hold on to it, it becomes something of worth to you, and it's not the paper dollar that you just go out and buy Starbucks with or whatever, the $20 or $30 you're going to spend that day on Starbucks anyway.
Right.
I hate to use a specific company.
It's okay.
But that's a good example.
You don't know what I spend a week on Starbucks. Okay, right.
Okay. And if you took that and put it into those metals, once you have them, they start accumulating and they sit there for a rainy day and you don't touch it. And it's a great savings account. It's great. So enough with that. I'm really pleased. I'm so glad today I had a good chat with everyone. Get a hold of me. I'd love to chat with you personally regarding how to protect your family as I have done mine. And do yourself a favor. Go out there, and if you do make some mistakes, pick yourself up. Give it one more try.
Thanks for joining us this week on Nothing Happens Until You Dream, starring Rick Thomas and featuring Tammy Trujillo, and is based on Rick Thomas's best-selling book, The Tiger Whisker, available on rickthomas.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out on Patreon for exclusive members-only content. Stay up to date with Rick and Tammy at nothinghappensUntilYouDream.com. Remember, you must follow your dreams, not only for yourself, but for the rest of our future. We'll see you on the next episode.